Support for this and all the other podcasts on the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by Momento. Yes, you can use AI to make your job as a marketer easier. Momento is built to put the power of AI in your hands. It can write social media captions, have it watch or listen to a podcast and suggest, then automatically create social media posts to promote the show. Heck, it can even listen to a podcast episode, then write a poem about it you can use on your company blog. Go check it out. MPN listeners can try it for free at bit.ly/MomentoMPN. That's bit.ly/MomentoMPN.
Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. As always, I'm your host, Seth. Today I have Kahn. She is a highly sought-after keynote speaker, CEO of SELLect Sales Development. It's SELLect. So sell, get it? Ha, ha, ha. She specializes in consultative sales and emotional intelligence. She's wrote 2 books. That's 2 books, which is... I can't even get my first book done, so that's impressive. Myth Shift, Challenge the Truths that Sabotage Success, and Are You Open to 4 Words That Transform Everything? And so she is a speaker, an intelligent coach, and she's also got the highest designation at the National Speakers Association as Certified Speaking Professional. It's only 12% of professional speakers worldwide have that. So it's really cool. And let's get her in here to talk about her journey. Hey, Merritt, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, Seth. How are you?
Pretty good. It's been long for us to get to talk. It's just been a lot of scheduling, and either you're busy or I'm busy, or someone gets sick. It's the way life is nowadays. So
yes, it is.
So how did this all get started? Have you always been on your own, or did you work at the corporate grind for a little while there?
You know what? I've had my own business since 1998, so wow. I can't even remember before that. But even when I was working for, I was in the radio advertising business, so I worked for radio stations, and even during those days, I was a 100% commission salesperson.
Oh, so geez, that's brave.
It's pretty much I've always, had that philosophy of you eat what you kill, and
I love it.
You just create everything on your own. That's how it works.
So in 1998, you started. What business was that you started? Was it this whole thing, or was it something different?
Yeah, so I had a sales management, training, coaching, consulting business, and with that, I worked mostly with entrepreneurs who were very, very good at what they do, but they were frustrated because it should have been easier to get business than it was, and so they would have to. Kind of be upset at the guy down the hall who was getting the business, even though they were better at executing the business.
But it was getting the business is kind of key. You gotta be that first part first. So
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's wild. So it's been a while. We're not gonna go back to we're not gonna do the math, but it's been a while. And then so when did you start speaking and doing all that stuff? I mean, since you've been doing this since 98.
Yeah, well, when I started my sales training company, I was doing programs. I was talking, doing business programs and workshops and things for different business associations, chambers of commerce, things like that. And one day somebody said, oh, we'd really love to have you speak. We're not sure we can afford you. And I'm like, oh, what do you usually pay? And they said whatever they said. I'm like, well, that's not my usual fee, because at that point I was like, I just want to speak to anybody, right? I just
exactly. But they give you a starting point. I love when they give you a starting point. They're like, we're hoping you do this. And you're like, yeah, damn it, I've done cheaper, but sure, I'll go for that number.
Well, back in those days, yes. Now I have a number, and it's not cheap. So,
if you watch the videos on merrittcon.com, you can see why it's not cheap, because you're really good.
Well, thank you, Seth. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think, the philosophy is there. The more relevant your program is, the more people you can connect with, the more real inspiration, not just that surface level inspiration, but things that people can actually use and incorporate into their business and their lives.
Yeah.
The more value you provide to others, the more value you deserve to earn for yourself for the opportunity. So it's gone hand in hand.
That's great. And so also, you're a podcaster yourself, not just a podcasting guest.
I have run my own podcast. Yeah, well, I was a co-host with a podcast partner, and we're not currently recording new episodes, but the
Take a
episodes that
break.
we did,
That's
I
allowed.
know we're taking a little break. This last year, the strategy was to be a guest on other people's podcasts, and
Yeah.
then we'll revisit resurrecting our podcast, which is called the Smarter Sales Show. But the episodes are all still very relevant, even though we haven't recorded
Isn't
for
that
a little
fun?
while.
A lot of people like to go back and listen to the
Yeah.
past episodes. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Anyhow, so it works out. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2010, so
Wow.
a
Okay,
bunch
you're a
of
long
different
timer.
podcasts. You know, they come, they go. This is the longest one. I mean, you're going to be past episode 200, so like that's pretty wild. So I've made it that far doing the podcast. It was never my intention, but you know how it goes. So since you've been an entrepreneur, pretty much your whole working life, except for that brief stint, which you're pretty much when you're thinking about it, all commission, you're pretty much an entrepreneur anyhow.
Yeah.
You have to be entrepreneurial, kind of like eat what you kill kind of mentality. What has been the best thing in your mind about being like eat what you kill, essentially, like about being on your own and stuff like that?
I think that, being on your own, I mean, it's got its blessings and its curses, right? So, I can control my own schedule. I can do whatever I want. Like there's a lot of freedom, but I often wonder if I have the freedom of working more than I would for anyone else.
It's so true.
I spend a lot of, evenings and weekends but it's seasonal, right? And so I think, there are certainly times in my entrepreneurial journey where I've been more inspired. I've had more drive to put in some additional time and effort to do some initiative that was important to me in my business at that time.
Yeah.
And then there were times when it was like, you know what, I'm gonna pull back a little bit. So I think the
You're
time
able to do
freedom
that,
has been
yeah.
really good, but also the financial opportunities to really set your own targets and to know that the sky's the limit, really, in terms of
Yeah.
what you can create. And
Yeah, there's no
so,
ceiling when you're an entrepreneur. It's only as
yeah.
much as you can do, which is kind of nice. So then what's on the flip side? What keeps you up at night? I mean, how about that? This twofold, because you've been at it for a while. What would kept you up at night back in the day versus what keeps you up now?
Well, I think what's interesting is that I've had enough years in business and I've been through enough ups and downs cycles to know that somehow I always find a way.
Yeah.
I may not always knock it out of the park. There
Yeah.
have been certain years that were certainly leaner than others. But I trust myself that, somehow it all just kind of works out. I
Yeah.
don't say that in like a Pollyanna, The Secret kind of way. Like I'm just standing at my mailbox waiting for the checks to roll in. No, I work my ass off, but it's okay. There are ups and downs. That's natural. I don't panic about those anymore because I know I'm putting the work in. And I know that when my results don't show it, it's not because of the economy or the market or the customers. It's because I didn't do what I needed to do. And when
It
I get
falls
back,
back on you. Yeah.
yeah, you got to just take personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially with this economy now. It's been very up and down and left and right all year. It seems for a lot of entrepreneurs, and because the economy is good in some sectors, it's horrendous in other sectors, and then it's kind of like, in others, like kind of, and it's a very weird time. I feel like feel like everything's cyclical too, which is kind of interesting. Like what goes up goes down, what goes down goes up. Most of the time goes back up, and that kind of thing. So what is the most important thing to carry with you on this journey all the time?
I think that having a mindset of, like the entrepreneurial mindset for me is one that is, I try to stay open-minded to some new possibilities. If one thing isn't working well, can I switch gears and go in a different direction? So I think that's been an important thing. But certainly that was a big lesson during the pandemic. I mean, as
Oh,
a,
jeez.
professional speaker, that revenue stream was completely shut down, but that was
Oh,
also a very big marketing,
yeah.
stream for me. So in one, basically in one day with all of, like everything was open and then everything was closed. And that lasted obviously for a very long time. So I had to really look and say, okay, well, some of my professional speaker friends who only had a keynote speaking business were really in a pickle. But
Yeah.
I had consulting and coaching and training and, some other things that I could do virtually to get me through that period of time.
Oh,
And so I
smart.
just kind of dialed back on completely turned off the dial for like
You had no choice. It was dialed back
it,
for you.
it was gone. um, but then I knew that at some point things would open up again and I would dial that back up and dial something else down. And so I think when you set up your business as an entrepreneur, you want to have some different things you can do. Like, seasonal businesses are good examples of that. If you have a landscaping business, you're either going to have to go to a different geography to do that in certain
Or go to
seasons,
plowing or something like that.
or
Yeah.
transition to winter activities. So it's just the way of looking at your business. So I think an open mind, a sense of optimism, but a balanced sense of reality check is
Yeah, reality check. Yeah, it happens if you like it or not sometimes. Sometimes it's like, oh boy,
yeah,
that's interesting. So yeah.
exactly.
And so, I mean, did you come from a long line of entrepreneurs, or are you like the first one to be an entrepreneur, or was it your parents entrepreneurial?
That's a good question. I definitely come from a long line of sales professionals. My
Oh,
grandfather had a used car lot, so I guess that's entrepreneurial because he
that's very
started it.
entrepreneurial.
My little grandma, who I talk about in my one woman inspiring comedy
Yeah.
show, she was an Avon lady, but
Oh
she was very
wow.
entrepreneurial because in those days you were just ringing people's doorbells like Avon lady calling, and she was really the pioneer of home parties. So she bought one of everything and then set it up in her basement, and everybody would come to her. And like in those days, nobody was doing that, so that was pretty entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
My mom is a real estate broker. She was
Oh, that's brave.
entrepreneurial.
That's very
And
brave now too. Yeah.
yeah, but my dad worked for the same company right out of college through retirement, which never happens
So he got
anymore.
the gold watch.
Yes, yes, he did.
Oh, he actually got the gold watch?
Yes, yes, he did get a Tiffany gold watch, I believe, for retirement.
Wow. You got
Um,
both sides there, but mostly it seems like there's a very long line of entrepreneurs there.
yeah, I think so. But definitely everybody was, really in tune to sales. So even though, my dad's, business with, he worked for the Chicago Tribune and he was in advertising sales. So
Oh,
that, that was,
that's sort of the same thing, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So you got a little bit of dad in the beginning, and then you went the other, and you're like, all right, because he did that sales stuff. That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were all proud of you and that stuff. So that's great.
Well, of course, Seth.
Of
All
exactly.
parents are proud of their kids, right?
Of course, of course. So where's the best place for people to come see you?
Well, I would say that the main hub of all things is meritkahn.com, MERITKAHN. And from there, you can choose to learn more about the 3 different stages that I perform on. So there's the business keynote conferences stages, and the theater shows that I do, and then my comedy club stuff.
I love your site because it was like, at first I was like, wait, how? Oh, you choose your own story kind of thing. It's very clever. It's like, oh, let me go to the theater. Let me click over here. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. Because then it's like, it's all under, but it's a neat site. If anyone wants to see a cool site, go check out Americon.com. And of course, you're on LinkedIn. I see you out and about there as well. So
yes,
Mara, this has been so much fun. Like I said, it's a quick show, but like I'm just glad to get you on, finally meet you, pseudo in person kind of thing. So that's kind of fun.
Well, thank you, Seth. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. And guess what? We'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.